Welcome back to Cecil TV's 30 at 6. Jobeth Bowers is a local attorney and businessman, and he's filed to run for Maryland House of Delegates in District 35A. If you don't know, District 35A is the western part of the county and includes Perryville, Northeast, Fair Hill, and parts of Rising Sun and Port Deposit. Jobeth, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
it's
of course.
Great what you guys have done and the amount of time that you were once a week and now pretty much
Every
every
day.
day, and
Yeah,
quite an undertaking.
thank you. So, why are you running? What made you decide to run?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing because quite frankly, 2.5 months ago, running for elective office of any nature was not on my radar at all.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, I run a law practice primarily in Elkton. We have an office in Baltimore City, and we have grown pretty rapidly in the past almost 4 years that we've been in business. And between that and my family, that's been kind of the primary focus.
Right.
I had some people here and there call me and say, hey, you should run, and kind of ignored them. In fact, I may have scheduled some meetings for late in the day on Tuesday of the filing deadline, knowing that, hey, no matter what you get me to do, we're a little bit too late here. So my wife and I were in the office. She's an attorney too,
Mm-hmm.
works with me here. We're in the office the Saturday morning before the filing deadline, and my phone rings, and we typically always answer the phone. It was Delegate Rudolph, former Delegate Rudolph
Right.
of this district, and he's like, Mr. Bowers, we need to talk. And I'm like, Dave, I know what day it is. I don't know what we're coming up on. I don't know that we need to talk. And he's like, yeah, let's meet. And I'm like, okay, but I'm bringing my wife. So we meet, and he starts to tell me basically everything that has happened or has not happened here in the county over the past 4 years and with the last election. And at that last election, I was focused on starting my law practice. So
Right.
I hadn't really followed what happened in that election cycle. I voted, of course, but wasn't actively involved or anything like that. And we lost a lot here in Cecil County, not just when we lost Delegate Rudolph in that election, but with the exception of this seat, there are no other representatives that are actually here in Cecil County,
Mm-hmm.
even though those other delegates and senators represent the county as part of the district.
And we should say we're talking about the election of 2014,
Yes.
when the current delegate, Kevin Hornberger, beat Delegate Rudolph.
Correct.
Back to you.
And a bunch of other seats that
Mm-hmm.
flipped or we lost representation. We had representation in District 36 from the county. That is gone, and basically one rep now. And it seems like a lot of things have gone downhill. So I got up to speed on that. My wife was there. Maybe that was the wrong move because she's like, yeah, we should do this. There's a lot that you can bring to the table, and we think it's needed. So we kind of balanced that, and on Tuesday morning, I was on my way to Annapolis to file the papers.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question, which is that the county's current delegation, which is all Republican, is very pro-business and pro-agriculture. What do you think is missing? You've mentioned a few things, but what specifically do you feel is missing?
Well, one of the things that I've been hearing a lot more, because I've learned even more since the campaign started, and I've been around and meeting people, and I thought I knew a lot of people. I know a lot more people now and continue to meet people all the time. But I get the feeling that the needs of our business owners are not being met. And a lot of that comes with just certain pieces of legislation that just are not brought back to the county
Mm-hmm.
or the people within the county that they matter to. And there are many things that are just unilaterally being filed in Annapolis that in some instances have had members of either the county council or other organizations here rushing to Annapolis to kill that legislation.
Like what?
Well, we all know about the elk that were never in Elkton. Cecil College. We have a great 2-year university here that has fantastic relationships with Salisbury University and other 4-year universities that allow our local students to get an affordable, close-to-home education, or at least a start on it, transfer to those other universities and get, for example, with Salisbury, a 4-year degree in nursing that says Salisbury University,
Right.
and move on. Well, there was legislation put in that would have completely uprooted that, changed the face of the community college as we have it now, and it's my understanding that it caused as a trigger point for unnecessary resources to be used, time, effort, energy, to go to Annapolis and make sure that didn't go any further than the legislation that was put in.
Okay, so if elected, what do you think you would do differently?
Well, I think that, part of it's not like a cavalier cowboy position. That position, whether it be delegates, senators, or otherwise, are supposed to be largely that conduit from the county, and the people in the county, the executive board, and even the mayors and those town councils in Annapolis. And that team has to be brought together. And I know that from those who I've spoken to in those positions, it's certainly desired, but to have somebody that, hey, you can call me, we can talk about legislation. If you need legislation and it makes sense, we can do it. I'm not randomly putting things out there that would adversely affect the county without at least talking to the county first, and working together on a lot of the needs that the county has. Because there are a lot of issues that we're facing that affect almost everybody across the board that need to be tackled.
If elected, what are your priorities?
I think one of the biggest priorities for whoever is elected, it needs to be the opioid epidemic right now in the county. And Cecil County has an opportunity to be the example. And we get to choose whether or not we're going to be the positive example and take the forefront on how to really tackle this issue, which is a big issue. There's a lot of elements to it.
Yeah, of course.
Or we don't put forth the effort to really be the front runner on it, and then we be the example of how not to do it. And I would hate to see that happen. I have 2 young children. They're 10, they're 6. They go to school here in the county. And part of what has really driven into me pushing forward with this campaign is a concern for what their life is going to be like when they're my age or not even there. And the other families, that we have a county full of families that are
impacted,
almost all impacted. The businesses are impacted by this. We've got an issue right now where there are jobs and there are business owners. I spoke to numerous business owners over the weekend and speak to them every day about the jobs that they have that they need to fill, and they just can't find people that are either qualified, that are coming to the table. I see this in my own business with difficulties that we have in staffing and finding good staff and having them, service the client base that we have and everything like that. And I'm not alone. And it's something that there's a huge impact that the opioid epidemic certainly has on that.
Right. So you have no primary challengers, but you'll be facing Kevin Hornberger in the general election. How will you get your message out to voters, especially Republicans in this district?
Well, I think it's important to get that message out to everybody, because if I'm elected, I'm going to represent all the Democrats, all of the Republicans, all of the 5,500 or so that are in the district that are independent, Green Party, unaffiliated or otherwise, plus all the rest of the people that aren't even registered to vote and don't show up. And it's important that all those people have a voice.
Right.
I'm trying to make myself out there as much as I can. Many of the events where people can come and commingle. A lot of these events are great causes that benefit the community. I try to publish on my website where I plan to be. I also am hosting a number of events, many of them free or very low cost, for people to come and meet me, grill me, ask me questions, talk to me. And I so far have garnered a lot of support across the spectrum. And I welcome that conversation from anybody, everybody. I want to know what issues that might not be on my radar, because when it comes to the top 3, our schools, economic development, the opioid crisis, those are easy. If those aren't on somebody's platform, then maybe they're running in a different
world,
in a different world, a different time. But those are the big issues, and a lot of those trickle down to everything else. But certainly there are more.
Right.
And it's tough to do things about things I don't know about and aren't on my radar.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
And best of luck.
All right. Thank you.